And we are live. All right. So, everybody, I am here tonight with Mr. Middleton Whittaker. Things started a little bit late tonight. I was a little bit scrambling because there was a little bit of issue with communication, different things. And so, Whit was willing to graciously jump in completely out of the blue. And so, we'll open up with just Mr. Whittaker. How are we doing this evening?
After all in rocks in the hot sun because I fought the law, sweating it out in the mines in which I work. Here I am, and we'll see what happens. I am primarily an artist and only secondarily an outlaw who works his ass off between 9 to 5.
Fair enough. You ever seen Cool Hand Luke?
No, I only know the name.
Interesting. Okay. So it's got Paul Newman as the protagonist, well, if you even want to call him a protagonist, as the main character. It's got Paul Newman in there, and he is just trying to figure out how to make the world keep spinning after he finds himself in prison.
I'm sorry, his little world or broader world, those to whom he's beholden in terms of family and other relations. What world are we talking
His
about?
world, his world, his personal world, how he's gonna how he's gonna make it through prison. Now I'm saying that, and it's probably been over 2 decades since I've seen it. No, maybe not quite that long, but yeah, I need to go back and watch that one. I like Paul Newman as
I
part of
do
it
do.
as well.
I have enjoyed the Sting, though it's been a long time, but I have fond recollections, and yeah, I've been known to consume the salad dressing as well.
Right, right. Did you ever see this? It's funny this we're going off in this direction, but did you ever see Road to Perdition?
Yeah. Oh gosh, what's the main guy in that? I'll know for certain what
Tom
a movie.
Hanks.
Yes, yes, I did see it. That was a
Yeah,
miserable.
it's a miserable film.
As I recollect it, isn't it basically a tragedy? Don't like it.
Interesting.
Die by the end of it.
Um, it's
If I recall correctly, his son dies and he wigs out or something like that.
I'm not going to give anything away because I think it is certainly
Okay,
worth seeing. Oh, I see. Now Grenfield, that's how I'm going to go with it because I'm
cool.
not sure if I should be saying Abbott Grenfield or Abbott Greenfield, but cheers to you as well. We appreciate you showing up tonight.
Yeah,
So
cheers.
yeah, Road to Perdition.
Go ahead.
I would say a tragedy is a fair way of putting it. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna give any spoilers away.
All
Um,
right.
it at one point, it was my favorite movie. Maybe it still is. It's been a few years, but uh, boy, Newman is awesome in that movie.
Wait a second.
He's
Newman's in that.
pretty good in any movie. Oh, he
I did
is.
not.
Oh
I,
yeah.
yeah, no, I remembered Hanks,
So
but I don't Newman, and it's been a long
that
time.
movie's sure.
Go ahead.
That movie's funny because there's bigger people in it than you would realize at the time, or I should say, some of the people that were in it went on to do bigger things. Because I think the two main ones that they were floating were Tom Hanks and Jude Law, and then
For,
Paul Newman
uh,
was in it.
hang on a second. Quick question. This is
Yeah,
late '90s, early 2000s, if I recall correctly.
that's a good question. I believe it's early 2000s. Let's see.
Okay.
All right, you guys can all look at my ugly mug while I'm looking up Road to Perdition.
I,
Um,
I know your mug, man.
2002.
2002. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So, what am I thinking? Jude Law, Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, and then Paul Newman has a son in it, and that son was played by Daniel Craig. And at the time, it felt like more than a bit part, but this was 2002. This was prior to Defiance. It was prior to what's the one he did where he's the Jewish spy? Certainly, it was
I
prior
can't
to.
tell you. In fact,
Go ahead.
yeah, I should have given a warning respecting pop
Yeah.
culture references in particular. You'll find me surprisingly ignorant, perhaps.
Oh, that's fine. I'm often that way on things. Well, we've talked about that a little bit. You talk about Scream and
Yeah,
American Pie and the generational movies. Like,
but
I don't know.
no, that's the thing. Okay, so for the viewer, we were talking about photographers that we know respectively, and um, and he was showing me some images that he thought I would recognize, and I failed to recognize them. And a thought occurred to me while we were going through that little practice, which is, I mean, it's something that you've heard from a thousand uh, directions already. And this is that with our little niche interests, our little niche group of people who understand whatever that little category of experience is. And so it's tough to hit upon at this point. Um, Large cultural icons that are identified by everyone categorically. Politics, I suppose, is an arena in which that's possible at this point. But when it comes to whatever constitutes pop culture now, I mean, that's totally fractured. And I
Yeah,
don't know. It was just something that occurred to me earlier when we were comparing photographers we knew.
yeah. Well, it is interesting, and so it goes back to network television. It goes back to exactly what you're talking about, the fragmentation of all of it, and what sort of things pop up. And I think part of it too is that I do think silos, not necessarily, but incidentally, incidentally form just based on certain interests. So it seems like, for example, I think one of the first exchanges you and I had was in regards to 2D fighters. And
Uh,
so it seems like in this little area, there are a lot of overlapping interests, whether it is 2D fighters or some of the guys do. Oh, there we go. I was going to say not a whole lot of tabletop RPG. There's some of it, but there's a lot of guys into the whole Warhammer deal
right.
and strategy games, things of those. So that was actually the first stream I did was with Praise of Folly, and we were talking about RTSs.
Yeah, I think a
And
lot. That's another world that I'm pretty ill acquainted with. Although, God knows, I visited the comic shop to buy just a host of D&D novels, Dragonlance specifically.
yes, yep,
I read through, gosh, maybe 50 of those. That would be a rough estimate. And that's absolute literary trash that I cannot go revisit, but it made a rather profound impact on me. And it was an awesome comic shop in South Seattle. A
yes,
really split stuff, a lot of niche stuff, and there were an awful lot of things in that warehouse space that I was just familiar with on site, and Warhammer was one of those categories. I never got involved with, but look, I got the vibe pretty emphatically during that time. And it's interesting more to hear the story of that fleshed out by like you and Praise of Folly stream. But Morgoth, I
yeah.
first time I said it on
Well,
stream. The whole
uh,
kind of fixation on uh, that avenue of thought and aesthetics, Warhammer, and the mimetic stuff that comes out of all of that and gets applied in a political way. It interests me, but I've never been involved with it directly.
yeah. If I remember correctly, and I'm out over my skis on this one because, like you, some of this media, I just either it came about in a time where I didn't have the time or the money to get involved with it, or I had other things going on. And so Warhammer's a little bit like that. I'm vaguely familiar with it, and if I remember correctly, the IP actually comes out of the UK, and so I think
Oh,
that might be.
I actually remember seeing what is it, Games Workshop? Um,
Mhm.
I my sophomore year, which would have been, I'm dating myself now, which would have been in 1997, summer of my sophomore year, I believe. Um, I found myself in London with the fam, and yeah, I remember seeing the Games Workshop outlet just down the street from where I purchased alcohol on the sly without my parents' knowledge.
Yes. Well, it's funny too. Is thinking back like cigarette vending machines, right?
Oh
Like it
yeah, oh
used.
right,
Yeah, you would just walk in and you thought it was funny when you were 10 years old because you would just pull the lever and out would pop matches, but nobody's really watching if you went up there and bought cigarettes or if your dad even gave you the money to go and get cigarettes or whatever.
right,
It was just different times. So,
yes.
yeah, very
Uh,
good.
go
What's
ahead.
up?
You're leading ants, man.
No, I forgot. We went from Paul Newman to Road to Perdition I think this is just a talk of general media is how we got over here.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, it's interesting too because I know I was talking, and I think we have a propensity on our side to do this. And I, yes, there are dangers to nostalgia, but I do think there is also a strong argument to be made that some sort of some sort of the only word I could come up with right now is managed, and that's the wrong word to produce the idea that I'm talking about. Limited, some sort of limited internet is probably the best. It really seems to me like one of the best parts of life was dial up. Obviously, the speeds were atrocious, but the fact that you could still have the internet, but it was still painful enough that it was actively limited in your life,
Yeah.
and it was a very small portion of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't know. Those were, I mean, just due to um personal experiences at that time, I don't think terribly fondly about that period. And
Yeah.
God knows this has been discussed to death, but I was an adolescent coming of age at that time, and I used the internet for what
Uh huh.
every other young man use it for when once they had access. So yeah, which I
Right.
believe you discussed at least in a cursory way when you were talking about, as I recall, in what was it, your grandparents' house, discovering Play,
I
Playboy,
forgot.
and,
Was
and
I
Play.
live streaming when I talked about that? Okay.
You absolutely were with Arthur from Cali. But
Okay.
yeah, found juxtaposed alongside one another in the shelf, both Playboy and Playgirl. Which,
Oh yeah.
anyway,
Oh
anyway, that.
yeah. It was enough that like, and I think if I told the story correctly, my parents were like there in their library, not knowing what's going on, and I don't even remember if we were looking for maps we were obviously looking for some sort of publication because we were going through their magazine stack or whatever, and then
Yeah,
there they were, and so it was long enough that we saw the titles, and our mom, she's just like starts snapping her fingers. It's like, what are you boys getting into? And it's like, this is grandma and grandpa's library. We don't know what's in here. But
yeah, right. And I'm sorry, you were how old at that point?
oh, I don't know,
That's okay. Go ahead.
middle schoolish.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
coming
old
back to
enough
the.
to know, but almost too young to care.
Yeah, right, right. Which was
Yeah.
essentially when I was introduced. But this is not a stream about that. But the nature of the at that time during that what you referred to as the painful period where it required considerable effort to make it happen. And if
Hmm.
you got a call while you were on dial up, it clicked you off automatically if you were using the kind of oh, what do they call them before routers? Help me out here. What
The modem,
the modem?
the
Thank you.
dial-up modem. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I remember when I was doing my multi-user dimensions, which is, I suppose, cut text-based RPGs in the late
Oh, okay.
on
Yeah.
dial-up. Yeah, and
Yep.
um, and yeah, when someone would call when I'm in the middle of a fight, and my character would automatically get annihilated by whatever my NPC nemesis was, or sometimes PC, because there was a call it PvP, the player kill, uh, which was limited in the game I was playing. But again, this is all BS. None of this pertains to. I suppose we called it the whatever stream for a reason. So you'll pardon
We
my
did.
I suppose let's nominally make some lean into the art subject, which is again nominally the reason for this stream. But again,
Sure. Well,
ad hoc.
and it is interesting too, though, because I mean, there's a conversation that we'll have to get to another day there on the on the interaction with text and the arts and imagination, because there was a whole season in there where guys were boy, I don't how would you even describe the text-based RPGs? I mean, almost a choose your own adventure. I mean, there was well, no, I guess maybe there was less rails than that, but it was interesting because you had this mix of programming theory and text-based input, and just figuring out how to keep the adventure moving.
Right. Mine, to be very specific, was called Ancient Anguish. I haven't looked it up on Wikipedia. There's probably a whole thing devoted to it online. But I mean, again, this was in
Yeah,
late 90s, early 2000s, and I mucked around on
yeah,
there. I met a character as a rogue, as it were. And,
yeah.
uh, but it's not something I've thought too terribly much about since then, even though God knows it consumed a hell of a lot of my time back then. Way too much, like video games in general did at that time. I
Agreed.
often that's part of why I'm so ignorant of pop culture more generally to TV, because my main thing was video games, and that was before
Yeah.
even the name gamer came into vogue. I
Well,
mean, I was a gamer before gamers existed.
that's a
But
great segue, though. If
go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say that's a great segue. We're talking right now about the amount of time you were spending on games and how that was taking up headspace. How did you move from consumption to production?
Well,
Because I
okay,
don't
that's
know
a
if everybody knows, but you went through a season, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, perhaps it's still going on, of being an actual pursuant and production artist.
um yeah. So I'm gonna try to hang on mentally to two items in what you just said. The first is how did I make the shift from, I guess, consumption to production? And very interestingly, and I don't think we've talked about this game. I don't think it's come up in our Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. You were a Genesis guy though, so what the hell do you know about Chrono Trigger? But um it it went down as one of the all-time greats. And if you look, you'll find in the kind of all-time RPGs and sometimes all-time game rankings, you'll find Chrono Trigger right up there at the tippy top or close to
Yeah,
it. And the art style, which was very much an anime art style, I believe the whatever they call him, the lead designer or whoever's responsible for selecting the aesthetic, pardon me, in the video game industry. Whoever that guy was, he was the dude responsible for Dragon Ball Z. So there was this
oh,
heavy,
okay.
yeah, heavy. Don't quote me on that, but I'm quite certain that's true. You could look it up. But
Yeah.
anyway. So there was this anime aesthetic that had been encroaching upon me at that time. And again, this was before anime was cool. And if you walked around with a Neon Genesis Evangelion T-shirt, as I did in late high school, you were a dork. Now you're cool, but back then you were a dork. But the aesthetic I was taken with, um, and really how I began drawing when I was very young. Young. Let me take it back even further. Was just copying Garfield panels. I mean, I had a lot of Garfield books, but then yeah, I mean, I think some artists, and I don't know who said it, but um, whatever they said stuck with me, and I think rings true in my experience, which is that uh, every artist begins with mimicry. You copy someone, and you do that religiously, and then eventually
Yeah.
you adopt your style, and that's true for practically, I guess, any kind of craft or I hear a lot about people becoming um, skilled craftsmen, that kind of thing. Well, that whole
Hmm.
in young men learning from old men and copying what they do and taking what's passed down. And so this whole idea of copying, as though it were something, I can't look at Abbott Grenfield. I can't look at the text that's flipping up on the screen because I'm trying to maintain concentration here. So you'll forgive.
Well, he
uh,
did say you were right. It was a DBZ artist.
it was okay. Thank you for that confirmation. Anyway, so and that led to I gosh, I've done so many things. So in my high school years, my latter two, in my junior and senior year, for half the year, I went to a technical college where I learned 3D design. Probably half the class was doing AutoCAD and like home design, that kind of thing,
Yes.
plans. But the other half, and this was doing more creative. So yeah, that I mean, from very young, it was fair that this was one of the things I cared about. And so yeah, that's why. I mean, primarily I'm an artist, and I don't do much drawing anymore. But here we are again, nominally here to speak about photography, and I'm waxing long about video games and movies and
Well,
Garfield.
no, it's good because I think um, one of the so it, you and I have talked about this before. I think I've said before when it comes to farming, you don't worry about raising cattle, you don't worry about raising sheep or whatever. What you worry about is raising grass. And if you're raising grass, then that enables you to raise cattle, to raise sheep, whatever. And I think you
Yeah.
can look at that on the visual art side. I think you could probably make the argument that your grass on the visual arts is going to be composition. And so
No, that's good.
there,
That's good.
in all of them, whether it's film and moving media, whether it is photos or video games or anything, if you can if you can raise the proper composition, that idea and that ability will flow out in any of the visual arts.
Yes, yes. You're absolutely right about this. This comes back to something. So I went to art school. I'm a two-time art school dropout. I went to the Art Institute of Seattle for gosh, what do they call it? Multimedia and web design. Back this was let me see. I graduated in 2000, and I was there for a little over a year. It was a 2-year program,
Holy
but
crap, that's still like HTML3, yeah?
yeah, no, I was about to mention that this was during the Flash period, and that was cool.
Yeah, all right, yeah,
Yeah, and that was the future of the internet. Everyone
right.
supposed. Um, and now let me see what who it was. Praise the Folly, who recently at least tried and failed. I think it was with Mike of Pole. He gave a shot. Pole had to drop out, but I mean they were going to do a stream on Homestar Runner, and I believe that's all
Oh yeah.
full
Okay.
shockwave. One of those. I mean, it's during that
Yeah.
era. Yeah.
Well,
So I
I'm trying to remember if
yeah yeah. Go ahead.
YouTube initially came out doing Macromedia Shockwave. I can't
That is a
remember.
good. I do not believe that's true. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I
Okay.
think it was from the very get go.
It was what from the very get-go?
Video, like
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, no,
you
no, no.
know,
I'm sorry. I meant, but I didn't know if because Macromedia was. I'm trying to remember the different. Wow, we're really getting into the weeds, but because there were the different
yeah,
competing codecs. You had, I think, Window had their WMV stuff that they were trying to get online onto the internet, and definitely you had Real Player that was doing stuff, and
yeah.
then
In fact, their offices were very close to where I was going to school. The real that
the Real
was
Player and all that. Okay,
yeah yeah. I made good use of that. And this is another endeavor. Is I do dancing, and I was in the well, you can see what dancing. This is a shame plug. I'll do it before the stream, but if you follow me, MIDWHIT, that mid with the Jared Taylor wit, uh, MIDWHIT. But I do. I got into dancing at around that same time in the rave scene, and yeah, there was a lot of good music that could be had on the real streaming services at that time. It was pretty niche, but it was big enough to be a real. You'll pardon the use of the expression, a real force in downtown Seattle. You could tell that something
no
was
kidding.
happening
Yeah.
there at their office. Yeah.
Well, I forgot that's for a season in there, and it's funny because yeah, like I mean, this is gonna come back to photography, but there for a season, that was the Microsoft headquarters. Yeah, like Seattle was more or less Silicon Valley.
I don't know if it still is. I have been, um, as I described it recently, I've been like Lot having left Sodom, and so far as I know, it's just a smoking
Sure.
sulfurous crater.
Yeah.
So I only vaguely keep tabs on the state of Seattle. I'm elsewhere, Southwest. That's all you need to know. But yeah, Microsoft was absolutely a force.
Yeah.
In fact, someone close to me, well, uh, never mind. Let's just say I've known some people
Fair enough.
in
Fair enough.
Microsoft. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Well, very good. Okay. So you were at school, you were doing HTML, you were doing, was JavaScript a thing at that point? Anyways, you're trying to get into web design, web development. So how's all that going?
Oh, well, it came to nothing. I smoked my way out of school and soon after found myself miserable wretch in need of salvation. And that was when I opened the Bible seriously for the first time and things turned around. Um, so yeah, that all came to nothing. And I let's leave the Christian thing to one side. In terms of artistic development, um, I suppose you could say that was formative. But once I got my head affixed more firmly on my shoulders, I did go back to school and ended up in Bellingham, Washington, at Western Washington, doing um, as my primary major was drawing with painting as a secondary emphasis. And that's when I got
Like a
into
BFA?
uh, I don't know. I'm too ignorant to even bachelor of F and
Yeah,
Arts.
Bachelor of Fine Arts. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was for. But so yeah, no, I became competent. I became an actual competent artist after my new life began and myself and this world seriously. I wasn't just screwing around any longer. I was acting with a purpose, and I found that I was able to exercise the kind of discipline that I hadn't had the capacity to before. And one of the things that really sparked my interest in an intermittent stage before I ended up at Western was doing life drawing. Drawing from uh, live nude models.
Yeah.
And most specifically, it was the shorter duration drawings, gesture drawings, where you get the dynamic action of the form and the general weight of gravity on the sense of a rootedness of the thing and the dynamism of the
Yes.
physical body. And I guess, I mean, looking at my PFP just now, it expresses a continuing engagement and interest in dynamic motion, which I find in graffiti too, which I guess is um what do you call it, guilty pleasure, I suppose, because it's expressive of a kind uh you know urban bullshit that I in many ways cannot condone. But man, the graphic style I'm absolutely attracted to. But I find it also in
Yeah.
Chinese, Japanese, in calligraphy more generally. It's that linear action that I found stimulating, that brought me back more seriously into the arts after I had
Yes.
wrecked my. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's no, I love hearing you talk about figure drawing and line of motion and all that.
yeah.
Because there is there's an opaqueness to skilled artistry that if you put the time into to start trying to understand it, I'm not even saying to gain ability and technique, but just to understand it, you're able to start breaking it into its rudimentary and foundational pieces, and that just allows a person to absorb and to truly consume, right? Like in general, I'm going to put consume into that. That's the negative to the positive of production, but there is an act of consuming that really gets to the meat and the bones and even further down into the marrow of what's being produced, and I think that that can be a lot of fun.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Are you? Do you mean to say that once you understand the excuse me, constituent elements of a work of art, once you understand how it works, if you will, that you're then capable of appreciating, consuming, I guess, with a to a higher resolution degree. You're able to
I
appreciate
think
at
so.
a level. Well, yeah, absolutely. I can
Yeah,
totally yes.
a person, and again, I do think there's a line that gets blurry there between ability and what a person can actually produce. Like, um, I don't think you have to be able to replicate. Um, oh, dadgummit. Oh, Mustaine. There we go. I don't think you have to be able to replicate Dave Mustaine to take on what he's doing and understand it and participate in it. But I do think you have to have some idea of what it means when a guitarist is able to work the entire fretboard, or when a visual artist is able to interact with something as potentially unwieldy as watercolors or gouache or whatever. Like when you understand to some degree the elements, or even getting into lines of motion and how things are drawn and how they're able to produce that picture, I think that that helps a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so you were going to school, and you learned to produce things that you were proud of, or just things that were better. Where were you on this line? Do artists ever get to the point where they are proud of their works, do you think? Or are they always trying to ride the tiger?
I can only speak for myself, of course, but
Yeah.
I dare say that mine, and I think I hear this from other artists that that are my history is a series of um, being proud of what I'm producing in the present, and then as I develop, looking back on that and being like, "What the hell was I proud of?"
It's
Because
all rubbish.
I see all the deficiencies. So to cite just a title, which I've never read, but I think I understand in general. Um, I think the word is mercurial. Michelangelo. I believe there is a biography of Michelangelo called the Agony and the Ecstasy. And if I don't mistake, that's a reference to uh these successive states, psychological states that go on with an artist within an artist when well, basically what I just said. You're proud of it, you like it, you're in the mode of creation, you're happy with what you're producing, and then like there's that other side where you look at what you're doing and it seems you can do nothing right. All of a sudden the glass is half empty all the time and you hate that shit that you've been producing. um that title, The Agony and the Ecstasy, sticks with me even though I know so very little about Michelangelo in terms of his actual story. But God knows I'm familiar with his works. But I hope that offers an adequate answer, which is kind of nebulous. But
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was talking with somebody here in the past week, and it's funny to me that these are sort of evergreen topics because every generation of young men has to figure out how do we talk to women, and every generation of women has to figure out what does childbirth mean, what does it mean to be a mother, and it's like
Oh,
we've been doing this for eons. And
yeah,
so, and I think it's sort of the same way with art and with vocation and with an application of one's life is
totally,
that clock starts over every time a person is born. And we can't just either by osmosis or even by teaching, like we really tried to do this by teaching, but we can't. And there is something required there of experience and coming down to being able to say in some way I participated in this agony and ecstasy, and so I can agree with what he's saying, but I can only agree with what he's saying because I myself have experienced that and participated in it.
yeah. You okay? So I thought of a balancing aphorism here, which is that what is it? Oh, I don't know who I'm quoting now, but and I might just be paraphrasing. Essentially, that only fools learn by means of experience. Wise men can be instructed. That is, you don't have to make the mistakes of an elder generation
Yeah.
if you're able to learn from them. You don't have to blow it, and they blew it because they'll. Um, so that I'm going to balance what you just said with that. However, I can heartily affirm there is no substitute for experience, and perhaps you might even say that those who know the most know by way of experience.
Sure.
But again, as a father, and I am a father of four, there's a lot that I would like to instruct my children about. A lot of kind of minefields I would prefer that they'd be able to avoid just because I tell them so.
Right.
Um, but uh, you know, um, I don't know. Those are two modes of knowledge, and
Yes.
yeah. Let me just cut that off. I think I've said what I need to say on that.
Well, no, I think it's good because it's, you know, there's it is. I don't even know if balance is the right word, but it's getting to the idea, right? That if you have, due to your own decisions, participated in something that wasn't great, you would like to help your children or anyone that you love avoid that. And yet at the same time, I don't want to use it as a cop out, but I think we can see in the first couple chapters of Romans, and then an easy distillation of it is there in the Great Divorce, which we've talked about. But C.S. Lewis writes in the Great Divorce, and then I think it's merely an echo of part of what Paul is saying in the first couple chapters of Romans. That idea that all all experiences and all things that we participate in either wind up as a path to hell or a path to heaven. And when I say
Yes.
all experiences, I mean all experiences. Whether it was, the common ones that the church can rail against, the drugs and the women and the frivolities, right? Like
Right.
those can
Yeah.
absolutely be, God can be using those as part of your path that is driving you to Him. And so then when it comes on to the next generation, it's like, this isn't good. I know this isn't good. And not only do I know it by theory, but I know it existentially that it's not
Yes.
good. And yet, we're able to hope that in the midst of that, that is ultimately a foundation for Christ, for the prodigal.
Yes. Thank you for bringing the prodigal in because that story vibes with me, let's say. And in the meantime, while you were talking, it did occur to me the verbatim quote. I believe it is, "Experience is a hard master, but fools will learn in no other school." And I think we're all fools
Yeah.
to so
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
whoever go hit that up. I don't know who said it, but I think it's a fairly genius expression.
Yeah. Beautiful. But all right. So that moves us, art, we sort of touched on earlier this idea that in the visual arts, composition is our grass. And so all the media, and when I say media here, I'm talking about the different paper types and acrylics versus watercolor versus collages, and all of that is getting mixed up to what? What is that oomph that composition is supposed to be displaying? Is it vulgar to call it story? Is it appropriate to call it intent? What is it that's being produced in art? Excuse me, in
Well,
the visual arts.
yeah, yeah, okay. I suppose this would apply to all art. And gosh, is it? We were talking about Dante earlier. I won't try
Hmm.
to reach for that quote. I believe he refers to art as nature's grandchild. So the artist is there observing nature and producing something from what the observes. And then you have this three-tiered strat nature, you've got the artist, and then under the artist um is what the artist is producing. Art is nature's grandchild. That is Dante, if I don't mistake. Um, I think that's true. And to address the question that you just posed to me in perhaps a more direct way, and to reference Romans, which you cited earlier, um, pardon, it's what is it, Romans 1, where Paul is describing the way in which nature presents God.
Yes.
Everyone
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. That
Everyone knows who God.
everyone is.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm not going to offer the quote verbatim, but I'll distill it. Everyone understands implicitly who God is because they've observed nature, And I think ultimately, in terms of what the primary interest of every artist who has his sense, his wits about him, will be to create with the intention of presenting the observer or the hearer of music with the creator. We Our intention will be to present God by means of nature. So I suppose coming back to Dante, you've got a four tiered thing going on. You've got God up top, and then beneath him you've got nature, which he created. And then you have the artist who's observing that nature. And then you have what the artist produces, who is,
Yeah.
I suppose, or which is um not merely nature's grandchild, but God's great grandchild, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
almost like art displays the, I think this works. Art displays the interaction of the divine with its creation, which more specifically, God the Father is tied into man. And so in some manner, art displays that, regardless of what's actually on the medium, or excuse me, what's on the canvas, or what the picture is. In some way, art is making the veil thinner between God and man. Is that sort of where
Good.
we're headed?
Yeah, look, uh, I'm supposed to be the poet in this conversation. Shut the hell up and quit putting me to shame with your insightful truth, which
Uh-oh, I think we're
oh,
losing you a little bit.
did I drop off? I haven't done anything new on my
Yeah,
end. I
just
don't think.
just for maybe roughly 10 seconds or so. So I don't know if you want to circle back.
I could circle back. I was just saying, no, you expressed that very well, better than I could say it. And again, I'm reported to be a poet on my link tree. I don't know how good I am, but you can go check it out. Again, shameless plug, but yeah, you'll find that link. Midwit MIDIT .bio. Uh, yeah, hit that. Poetry's there, but this guy just put me to shame because a pithy expression that I was unable to.
Well, mm, it's sort of like, but it's all just a regurgitation of stuff that I've heard and that we've experienced, right? Because what we were talking about earlier. I tell people sometimes, like, do you realize how difficult it is to have an original thought? I don't even know if it's possible in the 21st century.
It may, in fact, not be. It's all just In fact, this was one of those emphases some of my Art 101 classes. Once you arrived at postmodernism, everything became collage. That is, it was just an assembly of previous things, and
Mm,
which is in a way its own thing. So I suppose you could say that that's original, but it is absolutely, emphatically derivative. It is not
yeah,
original in so many respects.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's an element of what Tolkien was talking about. One day I'll make it through a stream without citing him, but uh, I think that's part of what he was talking about when he's talking about subcreation. And it's like we're given the crayons and we are given the paper, but there are boundaries that we might not even know that they are boundaries. But it's like, how do you draw a dog? By drawing a dog.
Right.
And if you drew something other than a dog, then it wouldn't be a dog.
True.
And that oh, it sounds banal, but but there's something in the idea of boundaries there that's like mind blowing that we can't have other than a dog because it wouldn't be a dog.
Well, yeah, I mean, this comes. I don't want to bring Plato's forms into this and uh, what constitutes the essence of a thing versus the instantiation of that essence. But when it comes to dog, usually horse is the quintessence
Yeah.
where every horse is just an iteration, an instantiation of that heavenly form, this thing, this category, and many will merely relegate it to a mental category. But I'm kind of down with Plato's forms. I think God created things, and there are specific categories of things, and they don't really exceed their bounds. There are iterations within the genre or the category. So you have a lot of horses. They have a lot of different constituent parts that are differentiated.
Yes.
Each one is differentiated from one another. However, they're all horse. So anyway, that's where my mind went when you were describing what you were saying about dog, and I don't know to what degree it bears on this present subject. But coming back to limitation, which I guess was the primary thrust of what you were saying when it came to dogs. When it comes to artistic creation, yeah, limitation is absolutely necessary. And I guess you and I both share certain political bents, and a lot of what is often derided in the I guess according to the or liberal ethos, the ultimate thing to be desired is this freedom from all constraints. That will kill art. You can't create art that is without limitation. It's the limitation that make artistic creation possible. And so I don't know. I think
Ooh,
that ties.
dig into that. Dig into that. I want to hear more.
Well, okay. There's not much more to say. It's so to use the word that you said earlier. It's so banal. It's so self-evident that it almost goes without saying. When I was in school, when I was painting pictures, doing drawings, the paper ends, the canvas ends. There is an edge. You work within that bounded box. Or I don't know, you could get fancier. You could cut a canvas into a circular. Still, there's end. There's the edge. Even the earth adheres to this principle. And let's not get into the flat earth thing. Whether flat or spherical is immaterial. What I'm saying right. There is an end. There's a place where the Earth ceases to be Earth and goes into just negative space, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking at your avatar and I'm thinking there is a gradient, but there is a line that you will come up to where red is no longer red, where
Sure, absolutely.
white is no longer white.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild to think about that. At least it is for me. I don't know.
So, no, it is wild, and it extends to other things, and this may be how insane I am, but I'll say it anyway. I mean, it extends to things, philosophical ideas respecting human life, even where, well, and the whole of history. Um, I suppose you have circular history on the one hand, but where you and I come from, it is a linear thing. There is a beginning, there is an end,
Yes,
and everything occurs within that limited space. And it's the limitations that make that meaningful. I think it's the limitations of a human life itself that make that meaningful. There is a beginning, there's an end.
yes,
Yeah, it's really I get
wonderful.
so banal
So
almost comment, but I just said it, I guess.
you have a hard out at 60 minutes, yeah?
No, actually, that has shifted due to uh, uh
Well,
evol-
don't let me capitalize on your time. So as soon
no,
as you need to punch,
yeah. You bet. I'll bow out.
Yeah,
I won't make any bones
perfect.
about.
Um, so I think the idea of constraint. So because I know a little bit about your background, I think the idea of constraint is an interesting segue into how you operate with photography. So I think maybe we finally got there. I don't know if you want to dig into that and just explain your approach to photography and what it is you're accomplishing in the midst of it. And then do you have like 500 pixel or not DeviantArt, what Flickr or anything that you want me to go to? I didn't think about asking that earlier.
Oh, I suppose you could pull up. It's kind of a clutter, and I got into more graphics. Um, cutting dot
Okay.
the dot retina, as in the retina of the eye. So you'll find a lot of my black and white works there, and you could just kind of scroll through them as we're talking. I suppose
Did you want me
they
to put that
do.
online or in the video? I mean,
Um,
you can say no.
yeah, there's nothing I'm ashamed of there. I guess
Okay,
put it
I
all
just didn't
up.
know if
That's
there was
fine.
anything doxable or whatever.
I don't know. Let me consider that. Okay, um, no, well,
Yeah, don't.
no, there's
Well,
nothing
I
recent.
didn't. I didn't ask you prior to, so we'll just hold off.
No, 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 no. Okay, I absolutely insist that you do
Okay.
up, and I've considered. Um, I have not posted on there recently at all. So I mean, where I am now bears no relation to where I was
Okay.
previously. So uh, I'm fine with that. By all means, spin the reel. But and I'm sorry. I indicated at the start of this stream that I work under. Well, uh, I work under some fairly extreme physical conditions, and it's quite dusty. And so if I keep hacking in coughing, I apologize for the listener. In fact, let me put myself on mute for just a moment here to hack my lungs out, and I'll be right back.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, guys, I am trying to locate his profile on Instagram. And I will also say that I think you're going to get a kick out of how he produces his photos because this is not what I was expecting when he told me this. Let's see. I apologize, guys. Okay, I think I found the Instagram, and now let's work on actually getting this here into the stream. Perfect. All right. I appreciate y'all giving me a little bit of. Let's see.
Yeah, I appreciate your patience as well. Permit me just a moment more to grab a drink here. Right back.
Yep. So Greenfield says, no worries. Sorry your lungs are down. He worked in a factory for years and his ears don't work so good anymore. Let's see. It happens. You do a fair bit of work and eventually you say, where'd all the good stuff go? Let's see. Oh, really? You stupid futz. Don't worry, guys. We're getting there. I gotta copy a link real quick. This, that. All right. So now we should be good. Bada bing. Now let's just get it up on screen for everybody. All right, fellas. Thank you for your patience on that. And let's see if we can scroll through this a little bit. Mhm. Okay, very, very interesting. Let's see. Oh, it's going to be obnoxious. That's all right. Well, I hope he's doing all right. Hope we didn't lose him.
No, you didn't lose me.
Okay, very good.
Pardon the wait. Pardon the wait. Just a moment longer, and I'll be right back with you.
Fair enough. Oh, I think is Instagram jerky about this? Like, do they not
Uh,
let you scroll without?
yes, no, it is absolutely jerky. If you don't, if you're not actually logged in,
Yeah.
would quite possibly dox yourself, and I don't want you to do that. It's going to cut you off after you scroll for like 2 seconds. So, I
No
apologize.
kidding. Okay,
Yeah,
no worries. No worries.
it's gone
Oh yeah.
through very, very stages of irksomeness in this respect. But anyway, coming back to what I do, and I'll do my best to make this a fairly concise description of where I've come from. And again, a lot of this top stuff is graphic because uh, I was I was involved in graphic design stuff. Again, like my media is all over the place, but but the lower you get on this feed, you will find things that are more
I think this is where
explicit,
it blocks me.
more exclusively photographic and not my
Yeah,
graphic work.
it's
It's
got
kind of
some
mixed
sort of
in.
script line or something that won't let me go any lower than that. Oh, not
Uh,
print.
that's okay, man. I'll describe my
Yep,
background.
fair
Um,
enough.
so how I got most specifically into black and white photography, it began with the um well, it began way back in the oh gosh, what do you call them? Digital cameras, the really rudimentary digital cameras. When I was young, I had one of those kind of cheap ass film cameras that yeah, yeah, I'll bet you do, Abbott Grunfield. Right, that I'm actually quite proud of that, but that's beside the point here. I'm talking about my photography. um yeah, so anyway, again, I said this was going to be concise. I was into the digital stuff when that was cheap and when like really limited, and we're talking like 16 megabyte SIM cards and that kind of thing. Um, and I was just kind of cataloging my experience as best I could, and none of that would I ever regard. I suppose this falls into that category of things where you're producing it, you feel good about it, later on you look back at it, and it sucks. And that's too bad. But I guess that's just the way of the world. You get better at things, and your previous work becomes hateful to your eyes. But not all. In any event, I was doing the digital stuff with cheap digital cameras up until, gosh, it must have been like 2012. And here is roughly where I need to take a departure. Say that for the most part, I am a product and not a process, and therefore the cheapest, quickest means of producing something according to my aesthetic sensibilities. That is going to be my go-to. And very often, and I have been quite literally an artist in the past. I mean, we've had some pretty thin times, my wife. But so I haven't had a lot of means at my disposal. And I kind of pride myself, and this comes back to the location stuff. I pride myself on utilizing the simplest methods to achieve my aesthetic vision. And so, full disclosure here, I've never really used a quote unquote real camera, as such as depicted in that cursed image,
I love
thumbnail.
that.
So that's some real false advertising. I love it though. Yeah. Um,
Yes,
so I was using like very digital cameras to do what I was doing, and to get how to get around to how I kind of found my niche with black and white photography. I, at some point, got the mad idea that I'm going to take a green glass bottle and I'm going to start shooting images through that bottle with a camera. And perhaps on X, I will try to go back in time and find some of these. And I have quite a few of them. in my back catalog. I haven't really presented in years, but they were the transitionary point that led to black and white. That, that was everything monochromatic and exclusively in terms of relative light and dark, with just this green. What was for me, when I look back on some of these images that I'm referring to, um, a rather fetching color through which the world is very abstract. Um, there was a point at which a close friend of mine shot something on his iPhone and used his black and white filter to produce something that I found immensely compelling. And I dare say this one image, and perhaps I can hustle it up if I go back in time, in my iCloud catalog. The very image that's responsible for prompting my transition to exclusive black and white. Seeing things in terms of, again, just relative light and dark and textural elements. I dare say, and coming back to the calligraphic interest, a vivacity of line and a kind of dynamism of action. That those things are what caused me to continue to be involved in the production of black and white photography. And yes, I do that on my iPhone and have done it exclusively since roughly 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, black and white, and I think you hit on it well there. It's it's interesting because it forces, so there's pros and cons to both black and white and to color. But black and white to some degree forces the composition to come more clearly into focus, and I'm being metaphorically it causes the composition to come into focus. Um, the other part of it though is that limiting nature of it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes hand in hand with forcing the composition in there, and that it emphasizes the composition to the point where uh, well, so my gal, she calls when I would, so don't take this on yourself, but when I would shoot black and white, she would say, well, you're putting it on cheaters mode. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh
She's like,
no.
well, she's like, if you get the base of the story, black and white makes it that much stronger. And it's like, well, yeah, but that just means that you have to shoot that much better. And oh, I'm trying to do pasta hands, but it's coming off like that crazy bird hands video you do. There's a form there.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, no, I love black and white. I will say, I shoot in it very rarely because
oh well.
I tend not to like what I produce in black and white.
Okay, interesting. So it's not
Yeah.
cheaters. You don't find more satisfying more regularly
Well,
black and white.
what I actually I do. I I I like I like black and white. It's almost like a horse though that I'm unable to work with.
Okay.
It's almost very defeating for me to work with black and white.
Huh.
Yeah, it never. Well, and part of it to really get into photography, the dodging and the burning, it, well, and that offers its own kind of frustration. That the less I edit photos, the happier I am.
Okay.
And the only thing I want to do is shoot a photo and maybe mess with the exposure slightly. I'm all about cropping. That's fine. So crop, maybe mess with the exposure just a bit, and then by the time I get into trying to pump up the blacks or anything else, it starts for me. I feel like I've moved into a different sort of medium, and I
And
don't love that.
so you'll pardon me, but you're speaking in analog terms now, correct? I mean, you were talking about dodging and burning and all that. Are you working with real photo?
Either or, either or. I'm talking. No, at this point, I do. It's all digital. At this
Okay,
point, everything I do is digital. So when I'm talking dodging and burning, it's inside of Lightroom or something like that.
okay.
Yep. But I don't love that. And so and that's why there's we won't get too far into the weeds of this, but like yeah, I understand people being like, well, um Fuji's and even Nikon's to some degree, like they're hipster garbage and it's all just people chasing silly colors. Like I get the argument,
Uh,
but also man, once you get past cropping, and even that, I'm kind of a stickler for like frame your shot, and then if you want to do some cropping, go
oh,
for
me
it.
too. Yeah, it intuitively. I mean, that's important.
Yeah,
Otherwise, like, I mean, a lot of images that if I have framed it poorly in the initial shot, I'll never go back to crop it because uh I so often I cannot see that more magnificent shot that's waiting to be revealed by a more competent crop job.
yeah,
If you get what I'm saying.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
is. It's like you could somebody who can look and think in composition can be given a completely random photo that does not have the depth of field is off, the shutter speed was off, and so you have this weird chaotic image of some things that are out of focus and some things that are showing movement, right? But a person who knows
Yeah.
how to pull a composition out of that will find something, right?
Right.
But there
Right.
is no original intent in what was given you. And that's what I don't love that. If I'm going to produce a shot, I want to know that I produced a shot. Um, this
In
is
the moment.
yes, this is
You you knew what you were after and you captured it.
yes, rather than just reframing and sort of like taking it and pulling something out of it. I don't like that. That's not how I shoot.
Sure.
There are people that shoot like that.
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
Right. Right.
So I will. I'll give you one example. I don't want to take over what's basically your part of the stream, but I'll show you
Oh,
what I mean
fun.
with
This
one
fun.
photo if you're down.
Yeah, go ahead. No, this is very
Okay.
much tit for tat, and I like it.
Okay. So like here it. Oh, I'm gonna have to. Let me mess with the camera setting real quick because I generally keep it on out of focus behind me. Okay. So like this shot of the horse, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the shot, and what you can't really see. But okay, now if I throw it up to the camera, like the whole point of this shot was to get that piece of slobber right there.
Well, I
Like
could
I
not have
saw him chewing,
identified that. Okay, go on.
right? I
Yeah.
saw him chewing. I saw him chewing on the snow, and this boy had always slobbered and been like super wet at the mouth. Um, and I don't know, something about that caught me, and so it was like I wanted to frame the shot, excuse me, frame the shot and get this photo. Now I will say it was probably I don't think I had his whole body in there. I had the depth of field and everything where I wanted it. I cropped in a little bit and changed the exposure just a bit, but then
Uh-huh.
like that's the shot I wanted rather than just I wasn't completely zoomed out snapping photos and then oh that looks like fun and
Well,
that's what we were talking about a couple minutes ago, you know.
yeah. Hang on a second. Hold that back up such that I can see the left or right side. I don't. There's a whole pull it over in the direction of your face right now. A little bit more, a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here's where now you're a little too far over, but that's fine. Now we can see the part for that makes this whole photograph. In terms of my compositional interests, you've got that the post, the fence line. Is that on
Hmm.
the left side? Um, the fact that you have to look past that fence line, beyond it, such that you get a sense of depth in relation to the horse looking away back there. Um, I mean, for me, that's what makes it. Apart from that, you would not have a good shot by my standards. There would be an insufficient number of elements to grant it interest. But again, this comes partly from my emphasis on a kind of dynamism of view, where you've got foreground thing going on, you've got foreshortening, you've got
Right.
hands coming toward the massive, disproportionately sized in relation to heads and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Um, uh, anyway, I simply offer that as an example of, I think, our differing emphases when it comes to photography, which is fine. I mean, we to each his own in some respect, and I'm not rendering all art to a subjective thing, but everyone there's a lot of room for disparate interests when it comes to artistic pieces.
Yeah. Well, see, it's interesting listening to you because you are the what was I going to say? Well, I get you are the professional artist, and it's like I'm with you in what you're saying. I just find it interesting. I'm less forgiving, I think, than you are, and um, no, it's coming out wrong.
For yourself
No,
or for art abstract.
no, I think it's for photography in the abstract because I think what you were talking about with motion is like absolutely dead on. You have to because that idea of a story in photography for you. Oh, I don't even know if you could. I was gonna say if you had photography without movement in it. I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, well, so this is kind of interesting. You like atoms, yeah?
Absolutely.
Right. And I think we've talked
Yeah,
about this before. I'm not a huge Ansel
yeah, yeah.
Adams guy. So let me pull him up
Oh,
so the
you're not.
viewers can see this.
Yeah.
Um, so if you guys ever jump into photography and like trying to learn about it and see different things, one of the first names and perhaps the most common name you will see in trying to understand photography through the ages or whatever is Ansel Adams. Do you have a particular one? Well, I guess actually let me just put the screen up and then you tell me if there's a
Yeah.
particular one that you appreciate.
Oh, I do always enjoy the movie,
This one?
spatially, in addition to the relative light dark balance. I mean, you got those heavy dark elements in the foreground, and you've got the moon way the hell out there. You
Yeah.
have that textural element, which is also a primary emphasis that I enjoy, which is why I like looking at your hair. I'm looking at it right now. The texture is really great, man. But back to the photos. Um, yeah, so there's a dynamism presented there, perhaps not. Yeah, it is a solid, you'll pardon the pun, composition. It's very strong. I mean, which is why it's iconic. Why don't you like it, man?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good question. Hmm. Because he does everything right. Okay, so maybe that's my frustration with it honestly is I think it might just come down to a bias um for life rather than and when I say life I mean for people, for critters, for Honestly, though, even wildlife photography, there has to be something pretty magnificent about wildlife photography for me to be like, oh man, that's a shot.
Yeah, yeah. We could do an entire separate stream on the subject of my abstract interests, which I think
Yeah,
contribute to my appreciation of this thing. Because, again, I broke it down to its constituent elements in terms of, its compositional
yeah,
style, textural stuff, and the depth of the image. And all that's all very abstract. And I've met Mr. Ink, perhaps. Well, I'm not going to have you pull that. When what got me into the same woman who was responsible for really sparking that initial competency that I acquired in art school, she was also responsible for initiating my interests in abstract art, which I didn't really care at all about until I was offered. And this comes back to something you said way earlier in the stream about understanding. Once you understand what's going on in the mechanics of an art piece, many times
yes,
your appreciation grows. And once I was taught in my very basic drawing courses what atmospheric, excuse me, perspective meant, and I suppose the quintessential example of atmospheric perspective is Chinese landscape painting. So you have
okay,
a sense of relative depth. You have thicker lines, which the eye perceives as nearer. You have darker lines, which the eye perceives as nearer. You've got the more faded it becomes as you see these Chinese landscapes um, fade into the background. The reason you perceive them to be further away from you and nearer is due to these very basic compositional principles, like with the lines that I just described. But I have an appreciation for that, which preceded my photographic competency, and so in many ways, yes, I I love the human form. I love people and their various attitudes expressed on film. Um, people are, gosh, they're the last thing created in the 7 day. And let's not get into the 7 day, just like let's not get into the flat Earth thing, um, whether it's literal or to be mucked around with in terms of epochs.
sure,
But but men and women, according to the script in Genesis, they are the last things created, the most complex creatures, the most remarkable
yeah,
things you'll ever be presented with. So I can understand why a guy like you would lean toward that. Why wouldn't you?
yeah,
I have this additional kind of more abstract centers of attention, I guess.
okay, yeah. Well, and that might be, um, yeah, I think that might be part of it because I'm looking at somebody like Kappa. And that Dorothy Lang, who we were talking about earlier, she's an
Yes.
interesting one in that she sort of rides in between the two of them. But when you look at some of these photos from Kappa, in general, so this is actually a really good one. But in general, Ansel Adams is able to go out and get the image he wanted, and there isn't necessarily a struggle with movement or poor exposure or anything. Now, some of these are, I mean, some of these are technically really good, but there are some of them. There's some soft focus in here. There's some issues going on that you wouldn't find in an Adams photo. But for me, the actual content of the photo, the framing and the what am I thinking? The not the model, but all I could come up with is the focus of the photo, not the technical focus, but
Did you
the
love?
abstract focus, the point of the photo. Um, yeah, I just find it far more engaging is a really harsh way to put it, but I guess that's what we'll go with.
Yeah,
And I
you'll.
think so. Yeah, I do think my struggle with Adams is to some degree potentially the perfection of his shots, but then definitely the subject matter.
Okay, that's interesting to me because in spite of everything I said about the abstract elements, the constituent parts, in a
Yeah.
formal, uh, listen, I love nature. I love vacancy. I'm a very solitary
Ooh.
person. Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
in fact, I spend my days working alone, essentially. I mean, in terms of my day job just now, I'm alone all the time,
Yeah.
and that's how I like it. And I just happen to live in a very beautiful place in the Southwest. I mean, it's extraordinary. It is
Yes.
perhaps the second most beautiful place I've been in the whole country, and I've zigged and zagged considerably in recent years. Uh, it rivals the Pacific Northwest, where I came from. It's a very distinct form of beauty, such that an Asian woman can be a lovely creature in this, compared to a European woman. They're distinct beauties. They can't be compared, but nevertheless, you recognize it instinctively when you're presented with it. And anyway, that's an aside. But what I meant to say, what I meant to emphasize in all of this is just the vacant natural world. I love that. I think God loves
Yes.
that too because there's an awful lot of it in this world. I don't know if you've noticed that, but Ansel man, and so that's that
Okay.
I like his images in terms of their subject matter, just in physically.
Ooh. It's interesting because it's like I wish I could get there. The lady, her and I, we will. She she really enjoys the beach
Yeah,
in a way that I don't understand. And when I say enjoys the beach, she isn't. She's not a lounger or whatever, but she likes walking the beach and participating in the
yeah,
beach,
okay.
and and that is something that is just way over my head. I don't get it at all. It's like if I'm going to the beach, I want to go to the beach because I want to learn how to surf, or um, I'll go fishing or swimming or whatever. But to just go and enjoy the beach,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
get
it's
it,
the
man.
it's the mere presence. Well, I can get it. You wanna
Right?
you
Yeah.
want
There's a,
to send your lady my way. We'll have a
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And that so it is interesting. I think. Yeah, because so again, one day I'll make it through a stream without it. There's um so sort of two things involving Tolkien and sort of his line of thought or whatever. The one being I think I'm willing to think that my interests when it comes to subject matter and participating with still life and in the beach and all that is more orcish, more mechanical, and I don't love that, but I mean whatever. That's where I'm kind of at.
Right.
Um, but then the other part of it was I thought it was funny. Somebody was talking with Christopher Tolkien one time, and they were talking about like, wow, your dad must have been like this arborist and knew the trees and the flowers and all that. And Christopher was like, well, not really.
Right.
He would go on walks and he
Yeah.
appreciated his walks and he
Yeah. Yeah.
appreciated the trees, but it's not that he knew every type of tree that was out there or that he could. It was just um, that in itself was good enough.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Uh,
I mean, I can understand that attitude of mine totally. And
yeah.
again, because you and I share an interest in Lewis, I'll mention offhand that he was notorious for his ignorance of like basic botanical distinctions in terms
Oh, I
of
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right?
So he
Because
was
like that
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
with woods and flowers and stuff, that I can get. And people be I say people and I'm talking about the lady again. She'll be like, why don't you know this? I've told you this. Like I've told you what this tree or this flower is. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I like the flower.
You dig it. You just
It's cool, right? But yeah, so it's just interesting how folks are wired different ways. Like I genuinely like the woods, but I don't know if it's a red cedar or a black oak, or is there a black oak? There's a red oak. Well, whatever, white oak.
I can tell you, I'm not the guy to inform you on that score.
Right.
Yeah, no. In my own personal life, I've often meditated on the distinction from quite young between the appreciation my father has, who grew up during the space race and all that stuff, and was
Yeah.
or gosh, he might have even, I don't think he was president, but he was very involved in the rocket club. That is
Yeah.
model rocket. Uh, growing up in high school and that kind of thing. The dream of being an astronaut and all that, and his scientific appreciation for the lay of the night sky and the various constellations, the various distances
Yeah.
you're actually looking at in terms of gosh, and I forget nearly everything I learned in my astronomy course, but in school. So I
Mm.
forget what the specific nomenclature is for designating the relative light and dark of the various stars and what those differences are attributable to in terms of the actual composition of the stuff that's blowing up continually in the middle of a star way out there. And I mean, okay, so
Yeah.
a very kind of metrical uh well, let's we could bring up to bring Lewis back into the frame here in and I'll make this quick so I'm not blathering deep lore to people who don't care. But in the first of the space trilogy, out of the side, so there are three categories of creatures on uh, Mars, which is called Malacenta, and there are these super large, lanky giants who, by contrast with two uh, the other two forms of creature, the other two species, sentient species, they are they know what's going on. They'll tell you what the way in which in terms of function they are measurers. They're the metric dude. By contrast with these otter-like creatures who are also kind of humanoid, with whom the main character first becomes acquainted, who are very poetic. They're very oriented, and they have that tendency. I dare say that distinction that we're now discussing is what Lewis was seeking to characterize and delineate with these species. Never mind the third; they they don't factor into this. But I'm much more of an otter-like guy when it comes to language and appreciation things, which doesn't require elaborate intellectual of their nature and kind of metrical details. And my dad falls into that lanky giant intellectual category. Um, metrical, I guess, is the word that I keep coming back to. Facts and figures, I suppose, versus uh, the way in which that spirit experience is articulated in the form of poetic utterance and I don't know, emotion, more more emotional communication. These are poor words to apply to it, but I think you get the sense of things. Uh, these are the designations that I think of when you mentioned lady versus your appreciation. This is my more immediate in relation
Yeah,
to my people. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's funny too. Yeah, she she's a big fan of points because they're not arrowheads or whatever. They're points. Have you ever heard this nomenclature?
No, I haven't actually. This is news to me.
Yeah. So if you're finding pre-modern stuff or whatever, they're not arrowheads. They're not knives or anything else. They're points.
Okay.
They're potentially blades. Potentially blades. Generally, we're talking about points though. And it's like, well, it's an arrowhead. It's like, no, it's a point because you don't necessarily know how it's being used or whatever. And boy, she loves the idea of understanding the people groups that existed in different areas and whatever. And I'm like, well, I mean, they lived. That was cool. She she's like, yeah, but what about? And I was like, man, I don't know. I just I don't know. I like dogs because they bark. Like it's just it's cool. Life is for the living. And I say that as I will spend way too much time in philosophy sometimes or whatever, like trying to strain out. Well, I mean, we were talking about artistic theory and all that earlier, and so there
Yeah,
are things, and so it's I don't know. People are funny. Like what makes them tick? Very curious. Very curious.
absolutely. We're all so distinct. Um, I don't know. People like to talk about kind of the NPC categorization versus, I don't know, the player characters, those
Sure.
who are sentient enough to see what's taking place and
Recognize the
respond to.
Matrix, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. These are categories of the mind that I suppose are useful, and we know what we're talking about when we say it.
Yes.
But I'm going never to negate that and just say, well, I'm really going to restrain myself from citing Lewis again. I am not going to say it right now.
Dude, I quote Tolkien
I'll
all the
tell you
time.
later. Okay, well, what am I thinking about here? Okay, I think it's in Mere Christianity. I told you yesterday that that is the book with which Lewis I'm least acquainted.
Yeah.
However, something he says in there, and I believe it's in there, is he describes salt and light and their active properties, which is to bring out like okay, so he uses this example. Say you're talking to someone from another dimension who knows nothing about this one,
Yes.
and they're all different for him, and you're trying to describe what what the deal is in this dimension, and you describe them this thing that's cast over all other um which you refer to as light, and they assume okay, so everything basically looks the same, but no, that's the it's the light. The primary quality of light is to make distinctions, to render distinctions between things. You see that some things are red, some things are purple. It gets darker, you no longer see that distinction, but crank the light volume and you perceive those distinctions. Same with salt. You describe to this person from another dimension, there is this thing that's basically put on all food
Yeah.
in most cultures, and they say, "Oh, that's very interesting." So
There's
everyone likes,
yes.
you know, stuff that tastes exactly the same, but no, it's the quality of the most the most functional quality of salt is to bring out distinction in flavor.
Yeah.
And so coming back to that NPC player character distinction, I mean that's a pretty ham-fisted way to categorize
Hmm.
things because the facts are that that we're also very different, at least in um, as far as potentiality goes.
Yeah.
And this comes back to Lewis and the, the primary emphasis when he's bringing up the end of the whole conversation. Um, the way in which our distinctions are expressed will be relative to the light shed on us by God, or the degree to which we're salted by the scriptures and God's truth. And so the bottom line, and this is pretty dark. This is a pretty serious black pill. Um, that those who want to skirt the truth and hide from God's light, from His salt, uh, there is this blandness, there is this sameness, this grayscale NPC quality that those people will show evidence in so many interactions. And so versus um the serious quantity of distinctions between those who are Christians. And I'm sorry for those viewers of this video who need to hear me get on a soapbox and offer a sermon. It's simply where I come from in terms of my metaphysical outlook, and I have my reasons. And I don't mean to get down on saying all of this. That's not my intention. But it's something that I think about an awful lot, uh, because there are a lot of people who appear to be very similar, uh, and yet there's such magnificent variety in this world at the same time. And that's a rather bland note to end on. But I think anyone who's been listening at the gist of what I'm trying to communicate.
It is. It. It's curious that, uh, and I think you offer a fair point in there. You know, to um, maybe shy away from the soapbox a little bit,
Sure.
um, at least on this stream. But the the idea that in in being salted, in having the light pour over us, that the execution of what is best, um, can look so radically different. And well, okay, let me quit working so hard and let me just run run to the Bible and that idea that, you know, some are hands and some are feet, some
Yes.
are
Yeah.
ears and some are noses, and that so it's interesting that,
Yeah. Good. I'm
we
glad
can
you.
operate differently. What's that?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that verse. And you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, the members of the body. That's perfectly emblematic
Yeah.
of what I mean to communicate. Uh, yeah. Again, coming back to our respective photographic interests and emphases, by all
Yeah.
means, you do you, to use that BS expression. You do you. I'll
Right.
do me. That's okay, man. That's okay. To each his own.
So I have, we'll start putting a bow on it if that sounds good to you.
No,
Uh,
that's great.
so this one is totally out there, totally out there. I don't know that it's true at all, but it's something I've been thinking about here lately. One of my great hopes for heaven, one of my great hopes for theosis, and the idea of becoming more like God, is that, I hope we have access to pretty much everything in heaven. And what I mean by that is that, um, I'm not particularly gifted when it comes to music and all that. But it brings me an amazing amount of joy to think that, in this next life, I will be able to pursue music as terribly as possible for as long as possible to the utmost glory of God. And that idea of struggle and of growth for an infinite period of time, with my current limitations, to go back to earlier earlier talks. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea if that's true. Um, but I like that idea of heaven. I don't know.
Yeah, so do I. I'm sorry, tie that into the limitations thing because I'm assuming
Yeah. Well,
emphasizing
so
eternal life
so
or go.
there's a part of us. There is a part of us in all of us, coming from the way in which I believe, in that there is a least common denominator, both in how we believe, but then also how we will be made into a greater likeness of God after this life in heaven, that we will be growing towards whatever this least common denominator is. But it also it seems interesting to me, and it seems like potentially we will still have, whatever the lesser struggles are. And so I don't mean necessarily a struggle against sin, but it's conceivable to me that even in heaven, even in heaven, after this life, that I will still struggle, in trying to understand music and produce music. And that idea of continuing to struggle with it, but being able to struggle for an infinite amount of time, and being able to struggle in a way that is glorifying God infinitely,
Yes.
just fills me with a ton of joy.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd heard that struggle emphasis made much to cite Tolkien, who I know you admire. You're acquainted with the Leaf by Niggle at all? That short.
Oh, I by name, yes, but I forget the story. Yeah.
It's kind of purgatorial in its emphasis. I suppose it's fitting that this get brought up in the same conversation in which the Great Divorce is brought up, because
Yeah.
there's heavy purgatorial vibes emphasized there too, where purgatory. Well, we've talked about Dante too. We've hit the full
Hmm.
spectrum of heavy hitters who have something to say about that purgatorial thing. Which, I mean, I'm no Catholic. I don't have those pretensions. But what you're saying is, I often hear more emphasized with greater intimacy. I'm sorry. I am actually in this very moment observing this shining moon arising over this little city in which I'm sitting in my parked car with the AC running. Uh, Listeners won't know how hard we we struggled to make this thing happen. This dialogue, but coming back to purgatory and strain, ongoing strain. Yeah, I usually hear that more associated with purgatory as a negative thing. You're gonna sweat it
Right.
out. You suffer
Yes.
on an ongoing way, but eventually you'll arrive and maybe things will be well, static. I can't speak. Okay, full disclosure.
Right.
I've read Dante. I've read Inferno. I've read Purgatorio. Uh Paradiso. I couldn't get through it. I just couldn't dig it for whatever reason. I it hurts, and part of it has to do with the fact that Virgil fell by the wayside, right at the end
Yeah.
at the end of Purgatorio. Um, or yeah, yeah, he was still with them through the end of Purgatorio. Um,
Okay.
uh, anyway, you'll pardon my rampant departures from the main thread here. Coming back to ongoing strain. I usually hear it associated with purgatory, but I
Yeah.
think you're right. It's such an essential aspect of the fabric of our lives, where we're undergoing this continual learning process. Um, I don't know. I can't cite chapter and verse for to back the statement I'm about to make and which you just made, but I think you're right. I think that will be a thing in whatever is entailed in the next perfect life,
Yeah.
the resurrected experience. And that's a great note to end on. In fact, we probably should. We've been talking about artistic endeavor and creative enterprise. I don't think that will cease. In fact, what you said about song in particular relates to the uh, things are depicted in Revelation, and
Yes.
you know there will be a new song. Only those who have believed will find themselves able to express it. And perhaps it's ongoing, and perhaps we're even while we're singing it, you know. And there is this kind of incremental um,
Yes.
movement toward a greater degree of perfection.
Yes, right? To be that much closer to the true rhythm, the actual note, the the full participation of of the intent. That's that's a wild thought. Well, very
Absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
Where can do some shilling? What is current right now? So Instagram is no longer a current thing, but
Well,
X is current. Oh, yeah, yeah. Go for it.
X is my ongoing dumping place for my various musings and uh, occasional trollings, and yeah, my smallish creative enterprises that I'm still involved with. I mean, I do a lot of things. In fact, I ought to have begun the stream without the nonsense that I spewed, and instead said that basically my career path has involved everything but art in terms of what makes me money. So I do all of what I do in terms of creative enterprise on the side. It occupies a peripheral spot, even though it's central in my heart. But I mean, in terms of my day to day business, it is peripheral. And I would describe my career path as being like, so Mary Poppins, you've got Dick Van Dyke who shows up at the start of the film and he's doing the one man band thing, if I recall
Yes.
correctly, and
Yep.
sweeping chimneys. And then end of the film, he's selling kites, if I recall correctly. I believe he's selling them in some of those final scenes. It's been forever since I've seen the film, but
Yeah.
uh, th-
Likewise.
this is generally how I describe my career path, and so it's just been this series of making ends meet by um, I don't know, is the expression by cheek and by jowl, whatever's clever. Yeah. So anyway, um, yes, the only thing I have to shill, and I'm not selling you anything, is my X account, and you'll find
Okay.
the two links. Well, my X account being MIDWHIT Midwhit, and there you'll find a link to my link tree, which will take you to my Instagram of my couple Instagrams and my Substack, which is all of these things are comparatively neglected, but anyway, you'll find it all there.
Fair enough. All right. Well, hey, I greatly appreciate you coming on and talking about art, talking about visual art, talking about photography, all of it. So this
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
great discussion. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the kind of ad hoc composition of it. I'm glad it worked out,
Right.
and
That'll
I
work.
hope next time I'll see you around the internet.
That'd be fine. All right, guys, we're going to check out. You have a good one. Thank you much.